How's everyone doing? I hope you're doing really good. I'm going to take you back to 1975. I'm going to show you our congregation. I'm going to show you, me, as a 12-year-old stood outside that congregation back in 1975. And then we're going to discuss what I can remember as a 12-year-old from what happened in 1975. So here we go then. Let's go back in time. Here we go. Right, there's nothing dreamy about going back in time for me in this particular episode. I certainly remember this congregation being very materialistic. Most of the elders and most of the brothers had very nice cars, although these in the foreground here, perhaps not so. But I do remember them having new cars every year. I remember a certain group of elders had their own businesses and they were doing really well. And they would not wanted the system to have come to an end because it would have meant an end to everything that, all the luxuries they've accumulated, nice houses, in-ground swimming pools, 4 or 5 holidays a year around Europe, Paris, London. Yeah, they had it all. This was an affluent congregation that was outside Sydney, a place called French's Forest, Eleanor Heights, just in case there's any Aussies out there, if they wanted to know what it was. Probably it's been dropped to the ground since. Can't imagine it still being there. They probably sold it on many years ago after I left, because I left Sydney at the end of 1979 to come back to the UK. Yeah, what a sad day that was. My surfing days were well and truly over. So I want to now give you my 12-year-old opinion about what I remember about 1975. I remember this. I didn't find it in official documentation that we would be in the new system, that the tribulation would have occurred by then and we'd be in the new system by 1975. But what I did find out was a lot of people inferring and a lot of intimation. I never found this from the governing body. I didn't find that the governing body had set it in stone that we would definitely be in that new system by 75. The most I can find as way of evidence is when Freddie France was giving a talk and he said, it was like this: wouldn't it be interesting, brothers? I'm not saying it is, but wouldn't it be interesting? And then he went on to give this discourse on man's time on earth, the 6,000 years of man's rule coming to an end. I did not find, after speaking to several elders at that time, because there I am there, and even as a 12-year-old, I was very curious about what was going on. I asked several elders, what is going on? Why is everybody selling houses? Why is everybody going pioneering? And every answer that came back was the right answer, and that is that 6,000 years of man's existence was up in 1975 and that we could be entering into the creative 7th day of God. I did not find anything cast in stone as a clear instruction to the worldwide congregations of the world at that time that we would be in that new system. I did not find anything. I only ever found, as I said earlier, wouldn't it be interesting, brothers? I'm not saying it is, but wouldn't it be interesting? So this was saying without saying. They weren't saying we were going to witness Christ's return, that the tribulation would occur, we'd be in that new system. They weren't saying it was a definite fact. And this is that saying without saying. They didn't have to say it. It was just inferred. And then many, many people acted on it around the world, obviously. And I'm only speaking for our congregation there in Mona Vale. But I believe that this would have been echoed throughout the world, and that everybody else would have been in a similar frame of mind. But I did not find from the governing body that they put in black and white print in any publication to get ready, that your deliverance is getting near. They just made that reference to the 6,000 years. And as I said earlier, Freddie France gave that talk, which I remember. And when he said, I'm not saying it is, but isn't it interesting that we are drawing 6,000 years of man's existence coming to a close? And so most of the brothers at that time jumped on that particular thought pattern. Yes, it is interesting. And wouldn't it be timely? What a great time it would be for everyone. Makes perfect sense. So they were all looking at it from very human point of view. And a lot of them were just, selling houses. It is true. They were doing that. They were giving up jobs and going full-time pioneering. And they were going overboard. Now, the Satmar Series, when all this was taking place, why wasn't there an official person from the governing body saying, look, stop, you're jumping ahead of Jehovah's order. This is not cast in stone. This may not happen. No one ever said that. It was just allowed to go on, and people were allowed to get caught up in the moment. And for me, that was wrong. And that is why 1.1 million afterwards, they severed their ties with the Jehovah's Witnesses. I believe that some came back after a year, but not all. Some never came back because they couldn't believe that they were allowed to have this thought pattern about we could be in that system. Yes, someone should have nipped it in the bud. No one did. That's the first thing that if I'd have been mature enough, I was only 12 there, but if I'd have been mature enough, say in my 30s or 40s, I would have said, look, we need this sorting now. We need someone from officialdom, which is the Watchtower Bible and Tract Society, to make a worldwide announcement. And that just took some time before that happened. When it eventually did come through, they were more or less saying and putting distance between what had happened, and they were putting distance between the brothers that had jumped ahead and themselves. And that didn't seem right either. Because really, why wasn't Freddie France chastised? Why wasn't he taken to one side and by the others and said, you shouldn't really have inferred? The way you use that phrase put people on a heightened sense of alert, and that indirectly you are responsible for 1.1 million people leaving the organization. I think there was something going on with Freddie France, some division. This is before Raymond France had his doubts. I actually think that Freddie France also was having a lot of independent thoughts, and I think he was getting in failing health, and I think he was just trying to accelerate. So, come on, Jehovah, let's bring it on. Let's have this new system, because just from a human point of view, if your health's failing, but you still want to see a fulfillment of Jehovah's purpose, you could effectively be trying to hurry him on. But that just isn't right, is it? You can't hurry on the Creator. Christ will come back, and Jehovah's purpose will be sort of revealed in all good time. And it's not for sort of humans to say, come on, you're going on long enough now. This is like the nation of Israel, isn't it? Wandering for 40 years. How many of them must have thought, you know what, I'm done with this. I'm totally done. I ain't following Moses nowhere else. I'm going to park my ass here with my camels and my livestock, and I'm just going to part company with Moses now. I don't care what happens. I'm just going to live my life out now. It could have been a case of that. You know, a great many people could have had that opinion when they decided that they were going to part company. They could have thought, you know what, I'm taking my chances. I really don't care. And I believe that's how it's going to be in our time. I think people will just, you know, not endure. They won't endure to the end. They'll just think, you know, sack this for a game of soldiers. I can't be bothered with it. There's too many mind games in the Bible. There's too many mind games coming from so-called instructed ones. And so they'll just go and then just pack it off and just forfeit, you know, whatever reward that was likely to come their way. They'll just forfeit it. I mean, everlasting life. They'll just say, not bothered about everlasting life, because, you know, speaking from my own point of view, I've given up on that thought. I've certainly given up on the old everlasting life thought. I'm not that bothered about living on a paradise earth and patting wild animals. Well, they won't be wild, will they? Because they'll be tamed, won't they? You know, well, my book of Bible stories, I'll be out to stroke lions and what have you, you know. I don't know, people. It is like a fairy tale. I had to clear that matter up about 1975 because it was sort of playing on my mind a bit and bugging me, you know, definitely bugging me, because I definitely don't remember of all the elders that I asked that they definitely said, Martin, get yourself ready because it's coming, because they didn't. They just quoted what was in a publication about the 6,000 years of man's rule coming to an end. And that's it. And I lived through that period. Born in that religion, lived through 75. And so I have a good, vivid recollection of what happened. And so I thought, get it out there. Why not tell the truth about what really happened there? Because people are saying that this was a cast in stone prophecy and prediction. It wasn't. It was never cast in stone. It was only ever intimation and infer that it'd be an interesting factor to consider about man's existence coming to an end. But it was never, in my, as a 12-year-old's young eyes, I never ever saw it as, this is it, get ready. It was only ever people that were impatient. They were very impatient, maybe because they were tiring out. Just didn't have the endurance. So they were just trying to accelerate the process. I think that's what's happening now. There are Jehovah's Witnesses that are attending who want to accelerate Jehovah's Purpose because they're tiring out. You know, they feel like giving up. So they want this new system to come. But as I've said previously, all things come in the appointed time. When Jehovah decides that it's time to speed things up or slow things down, it is him that is dictating play and not your average Joe Jehovah's Witnesses. They will just have to more or less mirror reflect the nation of Israel. And if they need to wander another 10 years, even from this point, then that will happen. I'm not saying it will happen, you know, I might be wrong. We may be close to that end period, but then again, we might not. This pushing, shoving, confrontation, the banning of religion could take a few years before it happens. But the increase in lawlessness, the increase in apostasy, these are all things that are going on right now. So this is, for me, tangible proof that a jigsaw piece has been put in. So finally I'm getting a more vivid picture of what is likely to be. And there is my thoughts on 1975 as someone who's lived through it. And what do they say? That if you've lived through an experience, had first-hand experience of actually being there, then you are in a better position to comment on it than someone who receives third-hand information from another person who hasn't lived through it, who also has received third-hand information. So why don't you speak to those that have lived through 1975? No, I'm only talking about my congregation, Mona Vale. So if people come forward and they're in another congregation, if they have a different opinion about 1975, then I think they should share that. But I'm only going to say that for me, it was only ever intimation, and never ever cast in stone solid fact that came from the governing body. And at best, it was only ever Freddie France that made that, wouldn't it be interesting, brothers? Yes, wouldn't it be interesting if it happened the way we all wanted it to have happened, but it didn't. And so we have to face that fact. Right. Thank you for listening. And there I am. There I am. As a 12-year-old outside my old congregation. I can't even remember most of these brothers. Maybe that one there, Robert Buckley, I can remember him. But I can't remember him. I think he was an elder or a ministerial servant at that time. There were some nice brothers in this congregation and nice sisters, but there was also a lot of fakes and flakes. Fakes and flakes. And they're the ones probably that just left. And that's the way it goes, really, because you can't last forever, you know. You think you run a marathon, that's 26 miles in human terms, a marathon. But imagine if you just run that marathon and then the event of the marathon said to you, I'm sorry, but you're now going to have to run another marathon. So it's a back-to-back marathon. So you've got the endurance then, because you're a fit bloke, you've been training. And so you embark on this second back-to-back marathon. You've just about got the energy to finish this second marathon. And the event organizer says, I'm sorry, but you're going to have to run another one. So there's a third one. How long would it be before you went, you know what? It just ain't worth it. I ain't going to get the prize. There is no prize. Because I've just run 26 mile. Then I've run another 26 mile, thinking I'm going to get my prize. And now I've got to run another 26 mile because they say so. And this is where you will think, you know what? It ain't worth it. I don't think I'm going to get my prize. And you think about that in religious terms, because sometimes it just feels like that you're constantly just running a marathon to no avail. Thank you and goodbye.